Hello. It is, what is today? It's Thursday. It's about 2:01. I'm sitting on 281 getting ready to turn down Evans, go to a property that I need to do a move-out inspection on. Just coming off of my lunch break. Rhonda had her second class at the Board of Realtors today towards finishing her SAE requirements, and so we made arrangements to meet for lunch rather than me just going home and eating leftovers and letting the dog out and having my afternoon meditation. And so I did. I went and I met her, and we went to Salata, which is where Tori works. And we've been there once before, and it sounded like a very appealing option today. So that was what I picked for where we would meet, and had a quick salad, and then I had to go home and let the dog out, and now I'm driving. I was out earlier, but I took my assistant out with me to check some power meters at a different property, and obviously was not able to record at that point, and really didn't have a whole lot to record about, but kind of wanted to give a quick update because I'm feeling really strangely good, and that's doesn't really describe where I'm at right now, and I need to kind of elaborate a little bit. But a couple nights ago, I got an email from Tiffany, the writer that I have mentioned several times, and just with where I'm at right now in my evolution and opening up process, and the part that she has played in that. Her book and her and interactions with her have come up a few times. So I got an email back asking if I had enjoyed the book, which I had, right after I finished it, I emailed her and let her know that I had finished it and that I enjoyed it. And I had some technical difficulties with that email, and I think I even mentioned that in a previous recording, but I ended up sending two, and it looks like maybe she only got the first one, which just really only said I finished the book. And so she had emailed me, it was a couple nights ago, so I was a little surprised, excited and surprised when I got the email, just asking how I liked it, and I wasn't able to respond when I got it because I was in the middle of doing something else, and I was running errands or whatever, and I sat down that night to try to respond, and as is my normal thing, I struggle with, sometimes the effort it takes to say what is on my mind, and I am intentionally limited on what I'll say. So what it came down to is I really was having trouble putting into words what I thought would be a adequate response. And in my mind, I kept just saying, a simple yes would probably suffice, but it wouldn't really convey. Sometimes I just don't want to put the effort into coming up with the words I need to convey the thought that I have. And so I sat down and I typed, as is my usual routine, typed up several different versions of that email while I was sitting at the counter, and we were deciding what to do for the evening for dinner, and I finally ended up with like 3 sentences. I was like, all right, well, I'm comfortable with that. It doesn't really say a lot, doesn't really give a lot of information, but so anyway, I am driving into a neighborhood that I have been in several times, but it's been a while since I've been up here, so I cannot remember what reached out to her and got an immediate response. I mean, I was through the roof, through the ceiling, sky high. I mean, just wow. And that was just my initial reaction to it, because it's so far out of my normal comfort zone as far as reaching out and talking to people and sharing things. And I talk about that a lot. It's not something that is new news, but it's kind of laying the context and from what I've got going on now. And okay, so I'm guessing, because I think I've done this before, I think I missed the turn that I needed to take. That's the first one back here. Anyway, so and my initial reaction to things that are different to me is, all right, what does this mean and where is it going to go? And that just, I mean, I was consumed with that. And the longer it went without correspondence between the two of us, the more it toned down, the more it kind of, all right, well, you know, that was nice, it is what it is, and, you know, move on. And so I got that email the other day, and there was a much more calm interior reaction for me than what I had been before. And I felt more at ease, and definitely didn't feel like I was adding more weight to the situation. So I think I'm going to have to look at my map, because this is not the right street either. On the wrong block. Left, second right, first right. So anyway, I was much more at ease, and but I wanted to send an adequate response with not overloading her with stuff that was on my mind. You know, there's always a million questions I have, and, you know, what do you think about this? And I mean, that's just how I go, and it has to be tempered with some restraint sometimes with my desire to ask questions. So I wanted that response to be somewhat interactive. I wanted it to be more than one word, but I didn't want it to be so much that it was second right, first right. This is where I need to be. So I sat down and I played around with that email for a while. I finally got to something that I was comfortable with. 84751. It's this one. To the other side. And I wasn't really expecting a response back. I didn't want to build it up to be too much, because again, I really wanted to keep it more at ease. And so I sent it, and I got a response back. My timeline's fuzzy. I got a response back, I think, yesterday. And maybe I didn't. What I did is I sent that. I don't remember. I would have to look at my emails to be able to remember. But anyway, I felt more comfortable with reaching out to her again and asking her specifically to look at a piece of work that I had generated a couple years back. And it's something that I wrote and I knew was very similar. It had to do with reincarnation and soul evolution, which I thought was very along the same lines as her book, and I really wanted to see what she felt when she read it, because it was something that I had written to basically express what I feel like I know. And I remember writing it. I remember what the title of it was. I remember it's in my blog, but I did not really remember the article itself or essay or whatever you want to call it. And I went back and I read it because I wanted to ask her to read it. I was hoping that eventually she would come across it, but I just got to the point where I was like, I'm just going to ask her if she'll take a look at it. And since where I'm at right now with trying to really understand and explain the conveyance of thought and energy, and basically what I talked about on whatever Sunday morning, I was talking about context and the ability to transfer thought and energy into this world and change this world with that. I wanted to see how somebody else would react or respond to it, and if it brought forth the intended effect, I guess. And I apologize, I'm struggling with words again today, but so I sent her a quick email and said, hey, if you got a second, could you take a look at this? Because, and what I did is I went and I read it this morning, and I read it first I was thinking, I'm going to send it, but before I send it, I want to read it to make sure that it is what I remember it being. And the first time I read it, I zipped through it, and it made no sense to me at all. It seemed like the words were all jumbled and out of order, and it was really, I'm like, I can't ask somebody else to read this. I should probably just take this off. This is not something that I want somebody to know that I did. I felt uncomfortable. I felt a little bit awkward, a little bit embarrassed. I'm like, man, I really thought this was better than this. And I was like, man, this isn't right. This isn't right. The spelling isn't right. Just the grammar, the use of words, everything just seemed off to me. And I was like, oh. Well, I wanted to reread it. So I read it again, but this time I read it a little bit slower, and I started to see things in it that I remembered. It was bringing back the memory of writing it and what I was experiencing, what I was thinking, and where I was at that day. And I read it slower, and it had more meaning, it had more impact, and I remembered again some of the feeling and some of the real heart behind it. And I was like, all right, that is a little bit better. And then I started to remember other things that I remember that I went through when I wrote it, and I read it one more time, except I read it really, really, really slow, word by word by word. And I looked at the structure of the words, and I looked at how I put them on the paper, and I remembered everything came flooding back. And I remember, wow, I remember how much time I spent on this, and I remember struggling with these words and in the way I put it and everything, and the things that when I read it the first time and I read it quickly, that I was like, oh, mistake. One, I wasn't reading them right. I wasn't seeing them right. I wasn't comprehending the words that were on the page in the manner that they were actually on the page. I didn't take the time to really absorb it, and I just zipped through it. The second time I got a better understanding of it, and the third time I really read it slow and got the actual impact of what it was intended to be, and I was like, wow. I even impressed myself. So what I had intended to do was email that and ask her to read it, and then through that process went from no, I'm not going to yes, I absolutely am. And I sent it, just a quick email. Hey, you know, you get a chance to take a look at it and let me know what you think, because I read it the first time and it was fantastic the way it worked out, because it was exactly what my focus has been lately. It's when you look at something, when you look at those words, what do you feel? What do you get from that? Is there any kind of spark? And the first time I read it, there was none, zero. And the second time more so, and the third time, then I remembered everything that I put into it. And being the author of that, I know what was there. I had the actual memory of feeling it and writing it. So I really wanted somebody else to read it and see what they took from it, how they interpret it, what comprehension they got, and if it sparked anything in them. And I felt like she was the perfect person to ask, and I feel like I've already kind of reached out and made that connection. And you know, if she's willing to do it, great, I'm going to ask her to do that. And I sent it, and then I felt good. I felt excited about it. I felt like I'd really taken a step. And anytime I take a step forward, regardless of how small or insignificant it seems, I feel good about it. And sometimes that's fleeting. Sometimes it's only an hour. Sometimes it's a day of having that feeling like of achievement and advancement, and then it's gone. And then sometimes you're left with a hole, because the absence of that is sometimes upsetting. Really, it can cause basically despair, depending on how much impact it has. But anyway, that's another topic. And she responded right away and said yes, she would try to get some time to read it, which I was very appreciative of her taking the time to respond, and how quickly she did respond, which was very reminiscent of the first time that I had emailed. And she made some a general note that she was sorry that she hadn't really been able to respond to my original email in the way that she intended. And it just made me think, you know what, it's, you know, that's life, really. I mean, we all have our paths that we're following, and we have intentions and things that we are wish to do and would like to do, and we have goals set for us, and they're always going to be prioritized somewhere in your mind, in some structure that you have, and you'll do them in the manner that you get. But sometimes you forget, and sometimes you need a reminder. So I felt like maybe I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, so yeah, I'm have been looking forward to the possibility of somebody reading that. And what's weird to me is, out of everything that I've ever written, it really hit me that was the most complex, because there was several different things going on in that, which is what I was talking about on this weekend when I recorded whatever context. But it was just the multiple faceted aspect of words, and using language to convey thought, and what different thoughts and emotions can be conveyed with the simple combination of words, and how someone's interpretation and their origination, where they come from and what they're made of, and where they are as far as soul evolution. They're going to interpret it and maybe get something different out of. But I really wanted somebody else to read it and maybe just give me a little bit of feedback. You know, what did you think? Did you feel anything? Did you see anything? What was the reaction that it caused, if there was any? Or was it like my first reading of it, where I was like, well, this is just a bunch of words on a page, and there's nothing here, which it's very possible that somebody could read that and come to that same conclusion. I mean, hell, I wrote it and I came to that. And that's just the nature of the human mind, and how we process and interpret and again, man. Anyway, comprehend. I think that's the word I was looking for. So, I've been a little bit anxious, and this has definitely slowed much more down. I don't expect her to respond right away. She's got her thing going, and that's cool. So it's not like it's going to be a life and death matter if she doesn't read it or doesn't get back to me on it. Again, it was just a friendly request to do that, and I hope that she does, and that that something transferred, that there was a transfer of thought and energy from when I wrote that a couple years ago to today when somebody else reads it. And that's what I was getting at. It's one of the most complex things I've ever put together, and it's on my blog. It's on Thales's Theories, and even though I know most of the web hits, the page counts on most of the posts that are on there were auto-generated by search engines looking for whatever, however that works and gets page views. This one is it's had one, and I think it was the one that I read. So out of everything that's been on there, I find it to be the most complex and probably the most significant piece that I've done, and it's never had a look. No one's ever seen it. No one's ever come across it, and it's been there longer than a lot of that stuff. And I thought that was really weird, and just by the general process of posting something on there, there's usually, it generates 5 to 6 hits from whatever systems are operating that come across that stuff, and this one has one. So it's out of everything that's on there, I think there's 24 or 28 different posts, and this has got the fewest out of everything. So I keep repeating that, I keep saying it, but it still seems to baffle me, and even though I'm saying it, it still doesn't seem to really convey the impact that I don't know what I'm thinking that might mean, or the potential with that. So anyway, having shared that, specifically asking for someone else to take a look at it, I'm hoping that she sees something in that was in the intent of the piece of work itself, and hopefully maybe she'll share it, maybe somebody else will read it, and I'm hoping that eventually this will all snowball, and I will end up with an audience, which has again been the whole point of all of this, to generate an audience, to be able to have an impact in a positive way on as many people as I possibly can. And it's exciting. It is. It's easy to get super anxious and carried away with, oh, what if? This could lead to this could lead to this, and I can do this, and this could make this happen, and this would be fantastic. And it's good to keep those kinds of things in mind in general moving forward, because it helps. That visualization helps you get to the things that you are trying to get to. So, but the reason why I ended up popping the camera on the dash here on the way here and hitting record is because through all of this, I've still felt that the last couple of days have just been really edgy, and I've been really ready to just explode, it feels like. And I've been making sure I'm getting into the garage and getting in a workout every day to help kind of balance that out, which it's always helped me in the past as part of my cycle, part of me understanding my own physiology and psychological makeup, and being able to counteract some things that would be considered to be negative, which is not where I want to end up. And I've really been trying to let it ride its course without getting sucked into it, which is extremely easy to do, especially for me, because I am kind of an anger junkie and have been, and it's I have to be consciously aware of not slipping into those angry states and getting sucked in there for long periods of time. So there's whatever forces around me, within me, that are causing me to feel this kind of irritable cycle that I'm in. I'm trying to let it run its course. I'm trying not to ignore it. That's one of the worst things you can do is ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist. You definitely have to acknowledge it and embrace it, but don't latch onto it and get sucked into it and generate a longer and possibly extremely negative period in your life and your existence. So I've been letting it go, but for some reason I felt this morning, and I don't know if it's just the interaction, the exchange, because there is benefit in that. There is, even through email. I've never seen her. I've seen her jacket photo for her thing, so I have an idea what she looks like, but we've never met. I've never seen her. We've never spoken. There's never been any kind of interaction other than those couple of emails, but any kind of interaction on a positive level where you're looking to be a positive influence on somebody else and have positive results happen for yourself, it's uplifting it, and there's certain benefits to that, and I'm experiencing them. I felt lighter today. I really, for the last couple of days, felt like there was just a giant hand squishing the shit out of me. Really, I mean, that's physically how it felt. I just felt extremely restricted and tight, and felt a lot of pressure, literally pressure against me, and I felt like there was a lightness today that some of that had lifted, and I felt able to breathe again, and felt very calm and very, I wouldn't get to the point of saying euphoric, but right on that borderline where you hit those euphoric points, which I mean, those are great. And part of me is hoping that maybe if she reads that and is able to connect even on a fraction of the level of what it was intended, that there's going to be a shared exchange also, that the uplift in her spirit and inspiration and excitement for life and the possibility of what is will transcend back through the words and the process of me writing it, and I will have hopefully a physical and spiritual and everything, just an uplifting experience. So I'm hoping that is the case. In theory, that's what I expect, but I'm curious to see how it works out. So but as I was driving here, I felt even more so I was actually wondering if maybe she had read it and maybe there was some kind of benefit there, and I was feeling that or picking up on that. But like I said, it could just be a result of the interactions itself today, and the positive effect that it's having on my ability to live my life, and the quality of that living. So that's really all I needed to say. I need to go do this inspection real quick, and that's it.